Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are Podcast. This is We Are Bagu Season 1, Episode 18, Metroid Prime, featuring the Level With Me podcast. That's GameBroCorey and Mike with the Collector's Vault. If this is your first time listening, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Please head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give We Are Podcast a like. And if you get a chance, head over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at /WeArePodcast. With that, on to the podcast.
We are Bagu.
Hey everybody, welcome to We Are Bagu. This is Duck. I am here with
Dr. E.
Dr. Ethan Eastwood, and today we have a very special crossover episode. We have the guys, we have the Pennsylvania boys, if you will. We're here with the Level With Me podcast. We got GameBroCorey. How you doing, Corey?
I'm doing pretty good.
Excellent, excellent. We got Mike with the Collector's Vault. Mike, how are you?
Feels good, man. Feels good to be here. And,
Mike, what is the Collector's Vault? What does that mean?
Collector's Vault.
The Collector's Vault is, it's just the most clever name I ever came up with for it's like the metaphorical vault that I have for all my collectibles. Basically, like sometimes people get confused thinking that I am the Collector's Vault, but no, I'm Mike with the Collector's Vault. The Collector's Vault basically is my YouTube channel that I started about well over a year and a half ago. And I kind of just wanted to get back into YouTube because I used to do it in high school. I used to always do video editing and making funny skits. It was actually like a ton of fun. So then I started getting back into it, and I just couldn't stop doing it. And I figured, what's a good topic for me to start talking about? And I was really getting into collecting things, mainly like collectible cardboard, like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And video games and all that kind of stuff too. And I just became so knowledgeable about that. I thought, well, then that'd be a cool topic to have when I make my videos. Even if they're being somewhat serious, my intentions were to help answer questions. If people had any questions about hey, how do I get into collecting? What are my cards worth? How do I know how to get good deals? Where can you get good deals? All this kind of stuff. And I kind of just wanted to show off my collection as well to kind of just, entertain people. And so that basically became the Collector's Vault.
Very nice. And GameBroCorey. Why GameBroCorey? Why that name?
I've gone through many iterations of names over the years. My OG name, which I made in middle school, was Corey Slayer. What did I have before that? I think I had Creamy Diablo. I don't know. I just went through all different types of names.
I never heard Creamy Diablo. I remember Corey Slayer, but I don't want to know anything more about your dark past. So
he just went through a short phase of Creamy Diablo. It's just a little creamy, slightly creamy.
So you guys are in Pennsylvania. We are in Texas. I am from Pennsylvania. I am from Pittsburgh side. How did you guys meet and become friends?
Corey's, you were born and raised up there. I was born and raised closer to the Philadelphia area, and I moved to Reading for my first job out of college. We actually met at the local card game shop at the one mall, Golden Eagle Comics. Yeah, and Corey and I had mutual liking in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, and then we just slowly became good friends.
So who beat who in the first duel?
Well, I think it's kind of obvious, but
it's me, motherfucker. I should have known that.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh at all, but it might have been Corey with his stupid infinities. That's probably the one. That's probably what he beat me.
I know nothing about Yu-Gi-Oh. All I know is there's a blue eyes, white something dragon. You play Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, me and Will used to play it all the time, but he always kicked my ass, and now his excuse is all of his cards are in storage, so he won't duel me again.
You've already mentioned the YouTube. So everyone, it's Level With Me Podcast. You can go to Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube to check out the podcast. Guys, we're here for a very specific purpose. We are about to talk about one of my favorite games of all time, Ethan's favorite. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but we're going to talk about Metroid Prime for the Nintendo GameCube, Wii, wherever else they put it out. Ethan, you love this game.
Oh, God, it's so good. Now, we did already do a Metroid cast earlier on, but we didn't really do a deep dive into Metroid Prime that much. I know we were pretty much just raving on and on about it when we did that cast originally, but now I get to sit here and just blab about it for the whole length of a podcast instead of 20 minutes. So let's go. Let's
Absolutely.
go.
All right, Mike, how about you? How do you feel about this game?
Okay, so Corey knows very well that I'm a huge Metroid fanatic, big time. In fact, I'm actually really grateful to be here and the fact that we're actually participating in the Metroid Prime talk. That's oh gosh, I can't wait to finally have an in-depth discussion because there's so much that I've learned over the years about the game. I just can't wait to go into these details with you guys and maybe learn something too. That's kind of the exciting thing. So I'm so pumped.
How about you, Corey? What do you think?
Well, I'm definitely going to learn something because I am not very versed in the Metroid series at all. I only played Prime 3 and Other M, both Wii games for some reason, and not very long, only a few hours. So
I love Dr. E's his face. He's like, those are the games you played. I know, and I warned Corey about that.
Why?
Good.
3 is so good, but
Prime 2 is awesome. Yes. Here's the thing. If you guys ever do a Metroid Other M talk, please invite me. I would love to come back and discuss that. No, I have positive things to say about the game.
We're going to talk about Metroid Other M just a little bit in this talk because I think it's important. But do you guys have a history with Metroid? Mike, you sound like you are a fanboy such as myself. Corey, shaking his head vigorously, yes, that he loves it, absolutely. Mike, what is your history? What is your first introduction to Metroid, as I like to say?
The introduction was Metroid Prime. So I was basically one of the late bloomers. I think many Metroid fans did actually get started with Prime. I know many people always talk about Super Metroid being the all-time greatest. Yeah, and many people say, oh, that was the first game that they played, and that's why they get into the series. And, definitely a good game to get started on. Like, I grew up on the Super Nintendo, but my parents just never got me that game, so I didn't know about it. I first learned about Metroid and Samus on Smash Brothers, like I'm sure a lot of other people might have learned. And then obviously when Melee came out, I'm like, man, who is Samus? What is Metroid? And the trophy section showed me, okay, this is what a Metroid is, the jellyfish monsters. And I'm like, all right, then Metroid Prime was announced, the trailer was on TV, and I'm like, okay, I gotta get this game. Tried it out, loved it.
Yeah,
and then just kind of like terrified by the game, but it just kept playing it. And then Prime 2 came out, and then I thought Prime 2 was way better than Prime 1.
Yeah, I think Ethan has similar feelings in some ways. You like it more, but I think it's shit compared to the first game. And we've had this argument. It's really not as fun.
And you're not alone with that. A lot of people do feel that Prime 2 was very disappointing. I don't see that. I personally think the game's great. I'm not saying it's better than Prime 1. It's just me as a young gamer, I thought, wow, this game does a lot better. It kind of I think it improved upon a lot of things. And I also just like the whole light and dark world story concept.
Yes.
But then basically after Prime... Hey, to each their own, right? Anyway, so after Prime 2, I realized, okay, now let me go back and start playing the old games. I decided to go back and play the old games, went to the old school GameStops and EB Games, and that's where I started buying like Metroid Fusion. Love the game. Then Zero Mission, I think, came out the same year as Prime 2. Played that, loved it. And I finally got to experience the original Metroid. And then I actually went to go play Metroid 2. I got that Game Boy game at that GameStop. Then I finally decided, okay, now it's time to get Super Metroid, pick that up. And I've said before and I'll say it again, this is like the true Metroid fans game. It has all the aspects, everything that you love of Metroid, and I just said, after playing Super Metroid, and I played that after everything else, I loved it. Yeah. And then that just made me more pumped for Prime 3.
So have you played the original Nintendo one?
I have, yes. And I initially played it on the Zero Mission cartridge.
I like the Zero Mission cartridge a lot better than the NES game, the original one, if I'm being honest. It just feels more fleshed out, and honestly, I wasn't.
So you're talking specifically, Ethan, about the remake Zero Mission, which is canonically, I guess, the original game now. But you also had the NES Classics Game Boy Advance cartridge of the original game, too.
Yep.
What was your first experience with Metroid?
For me, it was Metroid Prime, because I want to say the first game console that I truly ever owned was the Nintendo GameCube, and it came bundled with the Metroid Prime 1 with Prime 2 demo disc. And oh my god, I told this story last time, but I'll tell it again, just a little shorter. I used to only be able to play the tutorial section of the first game, where you go through, fight the Parasite Queen, and then you'd land on the planet, and after that I was too freaked out, couldn't play the rest of the game. And oh my god, man, I remember have nightmares of the Metroids coming after me, and I didn't even see them in that part of the game. And I'd run down crying to my mom or something. She'd go, God, I'm gonna get rid of that game. We're gonna sell it. No, not my Metroid. It's so cool, but it's so scary.
And that began a lifelong obsession for you because you love these games too, and you love this series, correct?
It's so good. Prime especially, 1, 2, 3. Mwah! Perfect trilogy. 2 is just so much scarier than the first. The weapons, the upgrades, the world is just amazing. Some of the bosses are kind of, but... And then going into 3, the whole exploration of what else Phazon can do and how it really, really fucks up some of these other worlds and the weapons you can make out of it. Oh, wow. Perfect.
So I want to know how Corey missed out on the boat. How did you not join this bandwagon, or what were your feelings towards it? Were you more of a Halo guy? Is that what's going on?
Kinda. I mean, I don't need to get too into it, but basically I was kind of a late bloomer with video games. I kind of honestly really fell in love with video games with the launch of the Wii. I remember I fell in love with, Wii Sports is a great game, unrelated, but Legend of Zelda. That was the first Zelda game I ever played, Twilight Princess, and it was fantastic. And from there, I wanted to play every Nintendo franchise, but I just started with all the Wii games, which is why I played Prime 3 first, even though I knew nothing about Metroid other than, like Mike said, yes, I saw Samus and Smash, and I'm like, oh, she's pretty cool. And I liked Prime 3. I don't know. I feel like I have this problem where I'll jump off games really quick and go play something else, or I don't know.
My introduction, I'm old. You guys are much younger than me. I'm old as shit. So my introduction to Metroid, was back in the 80s, maybe turn of the 90s, very beginning. We had a Nintendo, and we were out camping one night, and my dad bought us a new game the night before, but he's like, you can't play it tonight, you need to go outside. And when my father did stuff like that, it was because he was trying to get laid. I come from a family of 5 children. He got laid. And so we camped outside, and we knew that next morning we were allowed to play this game. So we rolled into the house, and my brother was playing it. He'd been playing it for a couple hours, and he'd already made it to Kraid's Lair. And my first memory of Metroid is seeing in Kraid's Lair in the original game going up the invisible boxes, shooting them going up, and then you would see the weird googly-eyed accordion-looking bug going down. And the music is just super memorable, and it freaked me out. And I've always been terrified of the claustrophobic atmosphere of the Metroid games, and it's just one of those things that just sticks with me. I swear to God, I could hear it right now.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on.
Kraid's Lair is one of my favorite compositions from Metroid as a whole.
Yeah, it's absolutely
the
amazing.
music is, yeah.
And so I was there every step of the way. The first game, when the Return of Samus came out, whenever Super Metroid came out, following this game at the age of, like 14 or 15 through the production of it. So for me, this game holds a special place in my heart, not only from my childhood, but also because this game specifically I followed, because there was a large gap between Super Metroid and Metroid Prime. It was almost an 9-year gap, I believe, between the two games. 94 for Super Metroid, and then 2002 for Metroid Prime. So
seems like history's repeating itself.
No, absolutely. You're right. Yeah. I'm going to get into a little bit of history of the development of this game. Not sure if you guys know this stuff. Mike, I think you might be on board with me in knowing some of this stuff. It was first announced by Miyamoto that was being worked on internally on March 8th, 1999, with the last game, like I said, Super Metroid, being released March 1994. At that time, they thought maybe it could still be an N64 title using the Zelda Ocarina of Time engine, but that was just speculation. It was August of 2000, a little over a year later, when it was confirmed at Space World that Metroid Prime would be a GameCube title, and it would be handled by Retro Studios out of Austin, Texas. Were you guys into games at the time that this was happening?
I know I was, into the N64 and everything. And obviously I was pumped for the GameCube. I wasn't in the E3 convention. I wasn't really aware of the news. I kind of just waited to see what was ever on TV. I didn't even know who Miyamoto was back then. I didn't. I didn't know about any of those game announcements.
And one of the biggest issues they ran into with there's no Metroid game for the Nintendo 64. How would that game look on that console? I don't even know if they could have done a version of it. And I've always said this. I think Jet Force Gemini began as a Metroid demo that eventually turned into its own thing by Rare. And it would make sense for Nintendo to go to Rare as a second party to provide this. And the only reason I bring that up is because as this game developed, everyone thought it would be a third-person perspective game, much like Metroid Other M, like we were talking about earlier. That's how we all envisioned Metroid going forward. Mario had done it, Zelda had done it. No way they're going to do something different. So when the news came out that this was going to be a first-person shooter, kind of like Half-Life, with platforming in it, people are like, there's no fucking way this is going to work. They were shocked. That the fan base, the infancy of the internet, screamed collectively, what the fuck are you thinking? And Miyamoto literally had to come out and be like, guys, it's a first-person action adventure. And we're all like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, give us our Metroid the way that we know it and love it. So people raised hell. Now, Miyamoto, this was his decision. And the decision was primarily based on the fact that the camera did not work in Jet Force Gemini. When you make that connection and he says that out loud, you start to think, maybe Jet Force Gemini was Metroid for a period of time, but he didn't like how it was progressing. So he went in there and said, no, we're going to change this up. Just conjecture, but I've always thought that. It just makes sense to me.
And if you do the gameplay of it, too,
that was really interesting.
Yeah.
It really
and
looks like it could fit.
Just conjecture, but I think it's pretty close. Once they announced Retro Studios was going to be the creator of the game, they went in. Retro was the second party. It started, basically the guy who made Iguana, Jeff, I can't remember his last name,
who worked on Turok and games like that for Nintendo 64, went and made Retro Studios. They got a deal with Nintendo of America, and when they began, it was announced they actually started with 5 games on their slate. First and primary one being Metroid Prime at the time. They were also working on a second game called Raven Blade, third game NFL Retro Football, another one a car combat game called Thunder Rally, and a fourth untitled action adventure game. But pretty quickly it became aware to Nintendo that they were not putting the attention where it needed to be. So they came in and they said, nope, you're only working on Metroid Prime. That is it. Everything else is gone at this point. They had to fire a bunch of people out of the studio at that point, and all their focus went to Metroid because basically they made a demo and Nintendo didn't like it. If you look in the internet, a lot of people saw that early demo. They hated it. They said it was crap. So Nintendo came in hard. First 6 months of starting from scratch to create something Nintendo finally approved, and then Nintendo was on them for the next year to meet that deadline. It was a pretty intense process for Retro Studios, but at the end of the day, it all worked out. The game was a collaboration between Nintendo overseeing the project, creating the music, Retro handling the art, and also the engineering, and both teams just the overall design of the game. When it was finally released, November 17th, 2002, it coincided with the release of Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance the following day, and the games were cross-compatible. So the little bit of history there before we get into the game itself. It's interesting to see that they used a stateside developer, but the reason why is because Metroid has always been a game series that has done better over here than it has in Japan, which is wicked interesting to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's the action aspect of it. Maybe it's the sci-fi aspect of it. For some reason, it works with American sensibilities. So going off of that, gentlemen, the game comes out, and when we get to play it, each of us have a different experience, I'm sure. But overall, I think everyone was afraid for a long time, and then the game came out, fucking masterpiece. It was worth every bit of work they put into it. So let's start with Mike. First time playing through Metroid Prime. How did you feel? What did you think about the game?
Well, like I said, it was terrifying. I didn't know what to expect. It was the Frigate Orphean is the space pirate spaceship that you first start off, get introduced to the gameplay, the mechanics, the controls. And the first thing I'm thinking is like, man, I've never played a Nintendo game like this before. I've never played a Nintendo game where like you're shooting aliens and everything, and there's like blood and gore. I mean, it's green blood and stuff, but still, it captivated me, like I said. Then obviously when you get to the very first part of the planet where you start exploring, I was lost. Believe me, this is a game where I can play the game and beat it in like a few hours. Let me tell you, my very first playthrough, I don't even know how many hours it took me to beat that game. But that's what I loved about it. I love how I got my money's worth out of this game. I played for, I can't tell you how many hours. Constantly getting lost, but eventually figuring my way out and finding my way. And in that sense of progression is just invigorating. It really was.
Yeah, and total immersion, like you were saying, when you get into that helmet and you are in literally the spacesuit of the bounty hunter, and you get out there and the space frigate, you know, that's really cool because the beginning of Super Metroid begins similar, and it follows kind of the same progression in a lot of ways in this game. It's like a 3D version of Super Metroid. It takes some excursions here and there, but for the most part it is. And so to start with that, to have the area where you have to run out, you know, Metroid for the NES created that time bomb scenario where you have to get out before everything explodes, and to bring it back and then to bring it back again becomes a trope of the series that really does create panic in your heart as you're playing. And just dropping you in there, it's one of the best tutorial stages ever created for a video game, period, done. They explain everything that you need to understand up until things that you're still finding at the end of the game, such as the grappling beam. So it's really cool to have that experience. And it also does set you up. You're all powerful, you're almighty, and you lose it all.
I was going to bring that up, that I think the best part about it was they give you all these power-ups, and then they take it away from you, you know? But that,
for sure.
In a way, it basically says, here, play Halo. Halo's a great game, but then when you first go to the planet, it's like, hey, now you're playing a Metroid game, and that contrast was just perfect to give you that power, and then you want to get that power back. You want to grow and get powerful again. So
you're right too, and it lands you on a peaceful valley, you know, where you got all this overgrown shrubbery, and it makes you want to explore it and get out there. And you're like, I don't know what just happened, but it seems like everything's okay now. Let's get out there and see this world. And it's just a slow burn, and that's what I love about it. Ethan, how about you? What was your, like, when you first turned that bad boy on?
I'll talk more about my first actual playthrough, not like the 12 times I played the intro and ran away from it. This was probably one of the few Nintendo games where a lot of how I figured out where things were was by word of mouth. So I had a buddy in like elementary school or something who had played through the original game, and I was like, man, I can't figure out where to go. I've gone all over the Chozo ruins or the overworld, and I don't know where to go. I can't open any more doors. I can't do this. And he's like, well, did you already get the boost ball, or did you already get this? And it's like, what's that? That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I could do the little boost ball to go up and down the half pipes, and something about being able to just share that experience and have someone kind of give you a little hint of where it was at. And that was so much fun. And the world is just gorgeous. The soundtracks, the aliens, the bosses, just I wish I could play through this game for the first time 1,000,000 times over.
I wish I could just forget Metroid Prime and play it again to experience it.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I am glad you brought that up. I don't know what kind of witchcraft they do over Retro Studios, but this game looked incredible. And the soundtrack. Unbelievable.
It pushed that GameCube hardware to the fucking limit, man.
I think it holds
had
up.
no reason being that beautiful.
But there's no slowdown either. Like, again, the game is so well crafted. Technically, there's nothing wrong with it. And you're right. I think I agree, Ducky. It holds up to this day. Like, if you look at it, it's like, yeah, obviously you can tell this is Gen 5 or Gen 6? That's
something like that.
Style of graphics. But, like, the detail is insane. And Metroid, I just called Samus Metroid. I'll go kill myself right now, okay?
That's over. Game over.
Where does Metroid keep all her missiles? So Samus, that shot, when you first see her come out of the spaceship, it still blows my mind. It's like, I compare that to Halo, and I'm like, my God, this blows Halo out of the water. It really does, and as far as visuals go.
Did you hear he said water? That's how you know it's from Philly side. Yeah, it's badass.
But
Mike makes a valid point, too. The other thing is it's actually in the small details. Like when you go up to things that are reflective, you see a reflection of Samus in those. Whenever you hit something and the lighting effects happen, Samus' face can come across your visor, which terrifies the shit out of me every time. Up until something I didn't even know today. If you have the X-ray visors and you look at her hand, if you look at the actual shooting hand, when she changes guns or something like that, you can see the hands moving in it. I didn't know that. So it's in the small details that make this game just so intense. Go ahead, Ethan.
To add on to that, I didn't realize this. It makes perfect sense. I should have come to this conclusion before until Duck pointed this out. I always thought the doors were getting stuck. I didn't realize that was a loading screen. When you shoot the door, it grays out and it won't open for a second there. I keep shooting that going, why the fuck won't this door open? Come on. And it's like, I didn't realize it until I was like 19, 20 when we talked about this way back when. It's like, I've been playing this since I was like 5. How did I not realize that?
Yep.
That is an important thing to point out. There were 5 releases of this game, and I had the initial release of this game, like day one that it came out, and there were major issues in the game. There were glitches. The game would actually freeze, especially if you went into a ball and you went through some of the tunnels, like because I just cruised through the tunnels. I remember multiple times the game freezing, just done. And I'd be like, what the fuck? So eventually, whenever they did release the PAL version, the Japanese version, I think it was about 3 months later. November, I think, is when we got it, and then they got it March the following year, February, March. But they did get rid of a lot of those bugs. Plus, they added in a couple things. They tried to stop the sequence breaking, so they added some new barriers. And they added narration at the beginning and the ending, at least of the European version.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of wish we got that.
Me too.
Yeah, you have to look it up. I don't think it's Samus's voice. Wait, is it Samus? Yeah, it is Samus's voice, supposedly. And it's like, it's strange. I kind of like the silence, though. Like, now that I look back on it, I enjoy that silence in the beginning of the game. Yeah.
Corey, have you played this game at all?
I have never touched Metroid Prime. I actually had to look up. I was like, what would I even have been playing in 2002? And it would have probably have been Kingdom Hearts or Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland or Pokemon Sapphire. That's the one I had.
Well, we're going to continue to wax philosophical about it. Then hopefully you can jump in if you have any questions or anything like that. With this game, we are introduced a couple new game mechanics, too. It brings back the classics. It brings back the Morph Ball. It brings back the Varia suit. Brings back the Wave Beam. But then it adds new things to the game, too, that change things up a lot. But the biggest thing is the visors and the introduction of the visor idea. The only other thing we ever really had was in Super Metroid, you had the scan visor, which allowed you to see through walls. But in this game, it has not only 4 different visors, but 4 different guns, correct? Or is it 5? I can't remember. Ethan, what are we looking at?
It's 4, including the power beam. It was 4 beams, yeah.
Yep.
So what were the beams, Mike?
There was the power beam, which is your default arm cannon gun. Then you get the wave beam first, which they actually gave electrical properties to. It doesn't pass through walls anymore. Then they give you the ice beam, which is amazing. It's like a shotgun speed, but it's awesome. It actually freezes enemies. And then they have the plasma beam, which they made fire-based, I guess, like actual plasma, I guess, and it can incinerate enemies. But it is funny how they made it as different modes, hence how Samus like coordinates your fingers, and that changes your weapon. You know, it's not like it stacks like how it used to be in Super Metroid.
That's something I've always liked about Prime 1 and 2, excluding the whole ammo thing from Prime 2, that you could switch between the beams and they had different effects on different enemies and you needed them to open the different doors. And I was really, really disappointed when they kind of threw that to the side in Prime 3 and they went back to just stacking beam weapons. I was kind of like, it was so cool being able to switch and use the different guns because it made you think a lot more tactically in every firefight you got into.
Mm-hmm. And also a wonderful way to stop you from going to other areas because you needed these beams that correlated with the doors to get through those doors.
Instead of like 5 different variations on the missile expansion or something like that.
I mean, in the classic Metroid, that's what they did. Yeah.
Instead of just one missile or a super missile or an ice missile, or the beams were so much cooler.
And color coding it, I think, helped too because it made it more simplistic for you to kind of remember in this 3D space. Because when you have a perfect grid of a map, that's one thing. But whenever you go, oh, wait, I need blue here, I need red here, I need purple over here, it makes it just so much easier to remember when you get to that area. Like, I gotta backtrack because this game's got a lot of backtracking.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Magmore Caverns. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey.
Son of a bitch.
Fuck the phase on mines.
I didn't want to talk. Yeah. No. Don't do the song, Mike. Nightmares. Oh God. Because you're always gone back and forth through it. But I get it. As a hub area, it kind of works. But God, it drives me nuts.
Hey everyone, it's just Duck jumping in here real quick to say thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you're enjoying it, please head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, and give We Are Podcast a like. And if you get a chance, head over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast. And if you're enjoying the podcast today, please share with your friends. It's the only way we can grow this network. With that said, back to the podcast.
So, can we hear you, Corey? What you got?
Hello, yes.
You're back. Okay.
That sweet voice of yours.
Yeah, sultry.
This is Corey coming at you.
He does. He's got a lot of bass on that, too. Are you running that through something? Or is that just naturally your voice is that bassy?
I think it's just normally like this.
No, that's just his Barry White impersonation.
That's a voice I could wake up to in the morning.
You don't want to hear my impersonation. Apparently they're horrible.
Dr. E.
Ethan, what the hell does that mean?
Dr. E, it's 7 a.m.
See?
It's 7 a.m.
I was like, what the fuck?
Go get your coffee,
So
go
great.
get your eggs.
See?
That's a kick-ass dude. This is
Don't tell me you don't
GameBroCorey.
want that
Have a
guy
good
narrating your
morning.
life.
Corey, say the last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
The last Metroid is at captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
It was close enough. I'll go with
Yeah.
it. It's going in there.
I
It goes in one ear out the other. I can't remember.
I see
anything.
potential. That's all I can say, okay?
Yeah. All right.
I
I'll
So,
start
Guys,
calling some
Prime
agents.
Glory.
Maybe I can get some work.
hell yeah, dude. All right. So we were talking about the beams. Now let's talk about the visors. What all do we got? We got combat, which is just your basic one.
For combat, yeah.
Yeah, it's for your combat. It's got your beams in the corner and it's got some other stuff in your health.
Yeah.
The scan visor, though, that is where it's at, and you get that shit right off the bat. And truthfully, that's where you get the most of the story out of this game.
Yeah.
You can run through this bad boy and not scan a damn thing. All right, that's not true. You have to scan some stuff to get doors to open, stuff like that. But if you want the bulk of the story, you've got to go through that scan visor. And introducing that, having all the pirate lore and the data of the Chozo lore and all that stuff in this game just creates so much backstory and just creates so much more to this. And it's really theater of the mind in a lot of ways because, you're there, you're playing the game, you're seeing the different environments, but it's telling you all kinds of stuff that you don't see that just plays into the back of your head. And then you're just like, it just makes it so much more robust and interesting. And that wasn't in the other Metroid games. That was a lot of silent theater. You created it yourself. You might have read the manual maybe, or at the beginning of Super Metroid, or throughout the cutscenes like the Baby Metroid at the end of Samus Returns. But other than that, you didn't get that. So this game introduces so much more. When you guys first played it, did you scan every single thing that you could?
No. God, no.
Really?
No.
Am I alone in being the only one that had to scan everything?
I scanned
I did it.
everything. Hey, Corey, the adults are talking, all right?
Please.
Back to my Halos.
But I will say this: I did scan everything because that's where the immersion came from. I was just like, let me just learn everything about this world, you know. And I know, obviously, later as on my second playthrough, it's like, okay, I don't need to scan this anymore. Unless I wanted to get that 100% completion thing. But like at one time, I was scanning even the little orange nodes.
Yeah.
That like don't really, they're just there for lore building. Like not even like the ones that are important for the log data. Just like whatever. I was like, yeah, sure. Let's just start scanning everything.
Right, just to see if you can get that 100% complete. And on top of that, one of my favorite things in the Frigate, what's it called? The first level, the introduction level.
Frigate or
Behind of one of the doors is a hopper from Super Metroid, and it shows you like a 3D character of it. And I kept wanting to get that fucker out of there to see if it was really behind there, because that intrigued me endlessly. I don't think they ever introduced that in the other games. I do think they were in Other M though. I can't remember.
Other M was full of the old school, because it basically was all Zebus monsters, like aliens from Zebus. Yeah, I was a little bummed that the hopper wasn't in Prime. I was kind of looking forward to finding it, but
that would have been so cool and terrifying at the same time. Then you got the X-ray visor and the thermal visor. So out of those, X-ray and thermal, what did you guys prefer to play with? Because you had to play with both, but you could choose to have that on for pretty much the entirety of the game if you wanted to. Like especially the thermal visor.
Yeah, I thought X-ray was cool, but the thermal visor just looked. It made me feel like a predator. That's why I thought it was kind of cool.
Yes, that was badass. And even more terrifying because there's parts of the game where the lights go out. We're selling it to you now, Corey. There's parts of the game where the lights go out because the game begins in the frigate. Then it crashes to the planet and you go down to the planet and then you're in this lush jungle and you go from the lush jungle to like almost a desert area. And then as the game progresses, it gets more and more technological. That's the thing is like you think it's going to be all this fantasy caves and caverns like the old games. No, you've got all these highly technology influenced areas to explore in the game, especially all the pirate bases and stuff like that. And at one point you go into a pirate base, all the lights are out and they got these Metroids behind the glass and you have to turn on the thermal visor. It's terrifying.
That is one of two most terrifying things in this game. Is where you get the thermal visor and the lights go out. It's just no.
And then the pirates are invisible. That's where I'm just like, the Metroids are scary enough, but I was just thinking like, my God, that these pirates are like hanging on the walls and they just it's like,
you can just see him clinging to the wall with that visor. It's like, I see you, motherfucker.
And speaking of terrifying, that's the point where the most terrifying thing happens when you hear the glass shatter. You just hear, and they come at you, the Metroids, jellyfishing down the fucking thing, coming for your face. And you're like, and it can happen. They can get on your face. That terrifies me. Even the original Metroid for the NES, when the jellyfish got you, when the Metroid got you, I freaked. Get in the ball, hit the bombs as much as possible. This game, same thing. Get in the ball, you see it on top of you, sucking out your life force. Terrifying, absolutely scary.
The Zebus Metroids, though, were a lot bigger, though. So these kind of almost look like it's maybe the size of your head. Or maybe a little bigger, but the Zebus ones
they grow.
It's funny because Corey and I were just doing the Let's Play of Zero Mission, and he asked like, "Wow, these Metroids are gigantic," and I said, "Yeah," because in Prime they're like maybe the size of like your head, and even in like in Metroid 1 and Super Metroid, they look like they could just eat you outright. You know, they're like they're that big. I think that was just that way you could shoot them. So I think Metroids are intended to be like the size of like a headcraft from Half-Life. You know, like they latch on to you, and then they drain your life. I don't think they're actually meant to be like the size of you. That's just like
I'd still kind of like to see that come back in like Metroid Prime 4 or something. Like have one or two of them just pop up and they're the fucking giant Metroids coming at you.
Well, we know they can get that big too because at the end of Samus Returns, the little baby Metroid's itty bitty, and by the end of Super Metroid, that thing is as big as Duck's head. And I got a big Irish head. Okay, so that thing is huge. That's all I'm saying. So
I think that was just the radiation or whatever that the space pirates were doing to it. I think that's why it grew so big. So I think like that's why that was the Super Metroid. That's why it was. I don't think the average Metroid gets that big, but anyway.
I think you're right. You know, they're about the size that they are in the first game. Let's talk about locations in this game. We already talked about the pirate frigate Orphean. We talked a little bit of Talent Overworld and the wrecked frigate, which is really cool that you eventually get to go re-explore an area you've already been, and it's underwater. And that can go fuck itself because I don't know about you guys, but anything underwater terrifies the shit out of me. Then
Not a fan.
Then the whole time I'm like, sharks? But then they're kind of sharks there, but thank God they look like shark dolphins, and you can split them in half, and that makes you want.
Oh, the gel zaps, dude, screw those things, man.
But that's what I'm saying.
They're horrible.
When you go underwater at first, you don't have the ability to move properly, which is a staple of underwater in Metroid. Terrifying. So when you lose that, it's like having that nightmare where you feel like you're punching somebody underwater and it's in slow motion. You're not
or you can't run away from something because you're just too slow. Yeah.
Right. They could have made it even more terrifying. Thank God they didn't. It was just the right amount of scary. But it's messed up because I've actually went to the wrecked ship before I was supposed to.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I'm talking about? Didn't have the right suit. Got stuck. Jumped through all of that crap to get up there, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's so. I got down there. I think I just said I had to go back, and then I'm like, wait. So the game is designed that way. If you go down there without the gravity suit, you can get out, but it is a pain in the ass trying to get out of there.
It's
horrible.
An hour and a half or so,
and
that's what it does. It messes with you because this is all about going back and forth. Back and forth,
That is the worst backtrack in the entire game. Is because I'm fairly certain the last power up you got before that is either in Magmore Caverns or somewhere in the
the gravity suit
right before the gravity suit. I can't remember.
It's the ice beam. The ice beam is the one that.
Okay, so the overworld. You're in the overworld anyway.
No, you're in the Chozo ruins when you get the ice beam, and then when you leave, there's like doors right near the town overworld. So I think you end up right near the frigate Orpheon, and that's why I think cool. Let me go down here because there's an ice beam door there.
Exactly. And then you hit that perfect little checkpoint, and it says, oh, sorry, bitch, you have to go all the way to the other side, the far end of Phendrana Drifts.
Yeah.
And what a pain in the ass climbing back up that. With the little
one way in, one way out.
Let me. And because Phendrana you can only get to Phendrana from the Magmore Caverns, which is interesting, Which is probably why I think Ducky hates Magmore Caverns so much.
I hate it.
I like Phendrana Drifts, but I hate Magmore Caverns. Also, it just freaks me out.
Yeah, if I can critique the game on one thing, of backtracking is a little bit too much, especially for your first time.
Yeah, and I mean, the other areas, the Chozo Ruins, I think that's a wonderful example of great level design. It's so big, you only have to go back and forth through it a couple times. Phendrana Drifts, I think, is amazing, too. Up until you get into the research station, and then, that's, its own area. But I will say, you guys brought it up, Phazon Mines. I hate Phazon Mines.
That's the coolest area in the game. And
I disagree. I hate that more than I hate Magmore Caverns. What is it about that area that makes you so happy, Ethan?
It's the most interesting, because I was always curious what the space pirates were up to. You see them moving around the Phazon. Once I finally decided to go and start scanning all the stuff, you see they've been testing with it and doing this and fucking with the Metroids and fucking with the creatures. And they've been doing all sorts of shit with Phazon. And this is where all of that's actually going down. And there's a part just before the Omega Pirate where it's this large chamber just filled with fucking Phazon and these corrupted Metroids. That part is the most scariest thing in this game, and I love it so much. Because you have to, if I remember right, you have to have the X-ray visor to see the invisible platforms and bounce your way across. Otherwise, you drop down into that pit and just burn.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're referring to the fungal halls?
Yes.
Oh my god. And that's also just pitch black dark too. It's like so.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike? What is your favorite location in this game?
But before I say that, let me say, just to enlighten Corey, because I just said he's a little not too lost. Phazon is the basically the whole point of the whole Prime trilogy is this substance called Phazon, and it's like a radioactive ore that the space pirates discover on the planet of Talon 4, which is where Metroid Prime takes place. And the space pirates realize, my gosh, this stuff has mutagenic properties. They're always doing science experiments with Metroids, and then they obviously are using this to experiment with creatures. They experiment on themselves, and they experiment with other Metroids to see what happens. So that's kind of what Phazon is. It's like the centerpiece of this whole trilogy.
It's the purple goo, my friend.
Yes.
It's a little bit black too. It's purple and black. But it's where you end up getting Dark Summons from eventually. Is because of the corruption of the Phazon. So.
Yeah, Dark Summons. Spoiler alert! Yeah.
Oh, by the way, that's
Dark Samus. Yeah.
So, Mike, your favorite area of the game, is it Phazon also?
The Phazon mines are pretty cool. I thought they were a little bit redundant at first because kind of like I said, it's like, oh, look, another space pirate base. But I think it was kind of cool because also like Dr. E said, this is where you finally see no, this is where all the real testing is taking place with the Phazon. And you start to actually see, especially with the Phazon elite pirates, okay, these guys are actually using Phazon to make super soldiers. And it's like, this is where I'm like, this is actually getting kind of cool now. And then I started to enjoy it.
And they start using those suits with your beam technology.
Oh, that too. Yeah, the wave troopers and
those pissed me off so bad.
Yeah, Corey, just enlighten you. And the Phazon Mines were introduced to Spacepar troopers. They're kind of like commandos, and it's kind of like a weird gimmick for the sake of the game. It's like where there's a yellow trooper, a red trooper, a purple trooper, and you need the corresponding weapon or beam to defeat them. And that's their only weak. I think even missiles don't hurt them. But fun fact, power bombs do kill them all. So that's always a little fun fact.
I was gonna say, if you're colorblind, you're fucked. You really are.
I was thinking about that. Like, this game definitely had accessibility features at the time, you know.
My best friend is colorblind, and we fucking rip on him all the time about it. So I should give him the game and be like, dude, you'll love it. And he'll be like, I can't make it past the mines. I was like,
just scan everything, dude. Just scan them, and they'll know. Okay. Yeah. But I will say, my favorite area in the game, I would say, is probably the Phendrana drifts, because I think it's just, I just like the ice scape and everything, and also the music is cool. And there's iterations of the Phendrana drift theme, but it's the Phendrana drift, the death theme when you go in to get the gravity suit that like.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that theme's awesome. I use that in some of my YouTube videos just because it's that good of a theme.
It's catchy too.
And
that's very catchy.
And the music is great because it does have motifs of the original 3 games that are put in there, but it's its own thing too. And that one, like I was just humming that da na 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 da na na na. It's just in my head immediately. It's a
that serene, like just calming music of Phendrana Drift is it's magical. Again, I don't know who the composers were at Retro Studios, but if they're listening to this, which I'm sure they are, because who wouldn't listen to We Are Podcast and We Are Bagu? Wow, you guys are geniuses. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. But I mean, it's that level was great, and Chozo Ruins I really love too. Because, Chozo Ruins, it really does introduce a lot more of the gameplay for this version of Metroid, and I like that. Let's talk about the bosses real quick. Who would you guys say is your favorite boss in this game? Every area has a mini boss and a primary boss, pretty much, except for Magmore Caverns. And your boy Thaddeus, I think is his name, the rock monster, Ethan?
Thardus.
Thardus, thank you. Not Thaddeus, but it could be Thaddeus if we wanted. Thardus, actually, he was originally supposed to be in Magmore Caverns as the boss there. But
that would make sense.
I actually never knew that. Oh, wow.
Yes, so there was a character that was taken out. You can actually see the animation for him. He was like a gorilla-looking ultimate Sheegoth creature for Phendrana Drifts, and they took him out because he looked like he belonged more in a fantasy game than he did in this series. So they ended up taking that rock creature and putting him as the primary and the ice level there. So there was one other that was taken out of the game too. It kind of looks like a space pirate, but it looks more like a mosquito. So the aerial troopers, it could have been the original concept for them, but that was taken out and they just did what they ended up doing, which was the space pirates with a jetpack, basically. What were you going to say, Ethan?
I was going to kind of tweak your question a little bit here. What is your favorite and the least favorite boss in this whole game?
Favorite is probably the final space pirate elite. What was he? The Omega Pirate. He probably is the coolest boss in the game. Yeah. Well, I don't know. The final fight with Metroid Prime is pretty cool too, but it is a little tedious and long. So I would say probably the Omega Pirate, which again, just for Corey's sake, is basically just the biggest and baddest of the elite pirates that they have there. It's a really cool epic fight. And I do have some trivia for you. I do have some trivia for you guys for that. All right, so Dr. E looked a bit surprised, and I said, "Hey, by the way, did you know the power bombs can kill the troopers, right?" Mm. And did you really not know that?
No, I didn't.
Here's a little fun fact: as awesome as the Omega Pirate is, so the most annoying part about the pirate is when you're trying to shoot his armor off on his legs and arms before you can actually start damaging him. Did you know a power bomb just eliminates all the armor?
Mind blown.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. He quit the podcast again. This happens every week.
You're welcome for learning something.
I knew there was a reason I was supposed to be on this.
No.
Yep.
No way.
Yep. So here's the thing, though. I believe it happened in the original version. It should work, and I think it was removed in the PAL version, but it returns in the Wii trilogy, the Prime trilogy. Yep, a power bomb eliminates all of his armor.
What?
And it's funny because he glitches out when you do it. When you do it, because like the animation where he's like, "Oh, my arm!" When you shoot him, he does that. He does it all four at once. He goes like, all at once. It's actually kind of funny. Yeah, try it next time you're playing.
I'm trying that on my next playthrough.
Yeah.
That I did not know that at all. I always fought him the hard way.
Yes, power bombs are best bombs. They are awesome.
So that's your favorite boss. Who's your least favorite then?
Does this include mini bosses too?
Sure.
Oh man, I was going to say Stardust was, I think, my least favorite. He was just kind of tedious, and I mean, he was cool, but it's just not that fun. I guess for now, as far as the big bosses, definitely Stardust. I was going to say Flagger. I think Flagger is pretty cool. I think he was like a cool like first big boss besides the Parasite Queen. You know what? No, I take it back. The She-Goth, the very first time you fight the big She-Goth, that was my least favorite because it was that I didn't know. When I first played, I didn't know you can use morph-ball bombs to hurt her. So I was constantly just going, missile? Okay, wait. 10 seconds. Missile? It just took it took way too long to kill her. That was my least favorite boss.
How about you, Ethan?
For me, I loved Flagra. That is absolutely by far one of the coolest boss fights.
And Flagra is
for
a
me.
giant, almost
it's like a praying mantis
looking
flower looking,
and it's huge. And it has this big coliseum it's in, and you have to go into the morph ball, and you have to go down these little tunnels, place a bomb, and then it fires up, and then it shrinks down. It's just a really cool looking, and it really takes advantage of the graphic capability as the GameCube.
Oh yeah,
it's the best looking one in my opinion. Like it's not.
I
a
disagree.
Fight
I
by
think
any
it
means.
looks worse than the other ones because you can see some of the 2D graphics within the leaves of that level, and I don't like that. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
But
So
that's
your
not
favorite.
Flagra's fault. I mean,
Although Flagra's just trying to plant, man. He was just there sapping up water. Just come on. Lay off Flagra.
I will say it was very, very rewarding when you realize, wow, killing Flagra got rid of all the poison in the Chozo ruins. I was like, oh, thank God.
It affects the whole area. And I want to say that's one of the only bosses in the game that actually does something to that extent.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure killing other bosses doesn't really affect the world you're in. It just,
That's something they really should have explored a little bit more.
I agree.
That's a cool. That's another way you can open up the map a lot more without having to just solely rely on power-ups.
Yes, and no, I agree because that way it's not like, oh look, I defeated this boss. Now I have the beam that opens the door at the end of the room where the boss was. It's like no, he actually affects the world you're in. So that way that's where you can progress in the game, which is pretty cool. I do agree. I think that was a little underutilized. It was utilized well with Flagra, but then they should have kept doing it. Maybe even in future games. Who knows?
My absolute least favorite, though, I can't stand the Hive Mecha.
Oh,
that boss fight is so fucking bad.
You don't like Hornets?
No!
Especially because
does anyone like Hornets?
That's true. I never saw a Hornet and went, oh, wait, Mike likes him. He's got his hand up.
It's a Yu-Gi-Oh reference, that's all I can say.
Fair enough.
Okay, Killer
Did he
Hornet,
defeat you with a Hornet in the first card battle? Was that what happened?
Maybe not the first one, but a couple.
Plenty of times, though,
dude.
yeah.
But yeah, the little it's just this little spaceship-looking thing, and
it releases.
It spits out the war wasps, and they just spin around
annoying.
you, and you have to chase them and follow and wait for them to stop. And it's
First of all, you said war wasp wrong because anytime you say war, you have to say war.
Oh, you're right. War wasps.
There you go. Thank you.
It's just so bad, and the only thing you get out of it is just a missile tank. Granted, it's the first missile tank, but
It's not a missile tank. It's it is. All right,
yeah,
it's
it's a missile tank.
My bad. I was like,
I remember that one well
because
because I've hated that boss fight since I was a kid.
I'll be honest, I agree. That was a pretty bad one, and the very first time I played that, I remember I was pretty afraid because, again, this is when I'm first playing the game, so I'm just terrified already. And you go into this room and everything's green, and I'm like, what? And the poisonous waters are at the bottom of that room.
Yes.
And I remember when I walk onto this platform, and then it goes to the cinematic, and I'm like, wait, what's happening? What's happening here? And then
The music though is really epic during that fight, and I totally feel that because it sets the mood, and it's just horrible.
Yeah, and then I saw someone just walk by.
I thought he was holding his I was like, he was there the whole time.
I think he heard Hive Mech and he just ran away. Like, nope, no, out of here.
Smart guy.
All right, I'll be quick with mine. Favorite boss of the game, period, done. Parasite Queen, first boss of the game.
It's a good one. Okay.
It's an easy fight, but it's just so cool looking. You got this giant, weird cockroach-looking monster of a thing up in this, rotating glass sphere. Not a spear, but, a cylinder. And you just got to shoot through that and defeat her. My least favorite boss of the game has to be Metroid Prime. And it's only because it's so fucking hard. That fight is terrible.
It can be tough. I would say... I would say... Wait. You mean when you're fighting the crab Metroid Prime? Or when you fight
crab Metroid Prime's fine, because once again, as long as you're not colorblind, you'll be in. You'll be good.
You don't like
It changes colors. You got to shoot it with the appropriate color. Good. It's when you have to stand in the phase on, charge up your gun, put on your X-ray, and find that. Is it
Yeah,
X-ray
that part
or
is
thermal?
kind of annoying.
Thermal, yeah.
It's both. It alternates.
Wicked.
That's why it's annoying. Yeah.
Oh my God, what a!
That's where you're at your most badass,
I
though.
know. It
You
is kinda
just
cool.
thought you were done with this big hulking beast. You finally collected all the artifacts. You go down, fight this fucker. He explodes. Oh wait, he's not dead, and this little ghost thing pops up, and now you get to use this cannon that you didn't know you had. Come on.
Yeah,
That's
it was a
epic,
little.
dude.
It was a little unintuitive because, like, if you go into your logbook, it'll tell you about the phazon beam, but he's like, I don't know how to use this. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, I just
They
realized
should have given
something.
it to you a little earlier.
Yeah, maybe. Kind of just that way you know you have it because like you don't really know it. If anything, I think at first I saw Metroid Prime like drip the phazon puddle, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going into that stuff. It's not gonna hurt
that's
me.
what my problem was.
true.
I was like, I don't know how to beat this. Like, I keep running around
Yeah.
it. I will say, I think the Meta Ridley fight is better. That's
I
why.
actually forgot to mention. I actually really enjoy the fight with Meta Ridley. I think it's bad. You know what? I take it back. That's like right there with the Mega Pirate.
Yeah, I think
It's cool as shit, but it's very, very repetitive until he lands on the ground, and then it turns into a cool
Yeah,
boss
but
fight.
you got a dragon coming at you, bro. A
Ridley-
dragon.
Yeah.
He,
Oh, and
he
again,
flies around too much.
and from
He
the
doesn't-
from the visuals, Meta Ridley looks incredible for those standards. Yeah.
Incredible. It's just unbelievable.
and they
like,
tease that fight really early on too.
Yes.
And I throughout the
Yeah.
whole game,
Yeah, the whole game, I wanna fight
fuck with
Ridley,
this
yeah.
dragon.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
I wanna
take it
fight
back. My favorite boss in this game is Kraid. Because Kraid is not in this game. But Kraid
He was
was
supposed to be.
created and skinned for the game.
Metacrate. He was
Metacrate, you're
yeah.
right. And they only ever released one picture of the model, but God, it does look cool. And I would
gotta
love
look
to
it
see
up.
a
I wanna
monster
see it.
that big in
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
I'll show you a picture of it. It's so freaking badass.
Yeah. You know what's funny? It's funny because, like, you know, early on we kind of said that this is basically like Super Metroid in 3D because obviously they wanted there's a lot of inspiration from Super Metroid. Like the Orpheon is like, you know, the Sarah Station. Like there's a lot of parallels to Super
Dude.
Metroid. So Metacrate is, I think, would have been a little
I
bit too
love that.
far.
He looks badass.
Yeah, he looks like it's funny. It's been a long time since I've seen this picture. He looks like a spider head. All those like 8 eyes are staring at
Although
you.
it's like teeth, they're giving me like a Shin Godzilla vibe.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what's
Oh,
funny?
dude.
I'm looking at where he is. He would have been located in the fungal
Okay.
halls. I
Yeah.
just realized that.
Yep, and it looks like he might have been in a wall creature too. And by the size of that, I mean, that mushroom, you can't tell. He could have been huge. He could have been little. Still would have been really cool to see him. I don't think we've still seen him in 3D yet, have we?
No. But
No,
he was
no.
probably supposed to be in place of the Omega Pirate. Now, ooh, that's creepy.
By the way, I'm showing them the different visor faces, and look how big her lips are. Jeez.
Look at the bottom left.
these are actual. They're actually the
The
models
bottom
for the
left, she
visor
looks like the
faces?
Joker.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, this is a really cool sight here. But yeah, that would have been really neat to see him in that game, but obviously he didn't make it. The last thing I really want to talk about is the power-ups in this game. You know, we talked about a couple of them, but you have your traditional missile launcher and expansions, energy tanks, the beams. What was the one that really got you guys? Like, my favorite power-up has got to be the spider ball in this, you know, where you can turn into the ball, and then you have tracks in the wall. You have hidden tracks here and there. You can explode things and find different tracks to go along. And a lot of that is the exploration to get the last items, you know, the upgrades. So I really enjoyed that. Did you guys have a power-up specifically that you enjoyed?
Personal favorite has to be the missile combos that you can miss.
Mm-hmm.
You actually
Wait,
have to
what?
actively seek those out.
Yeah.
What do you
They're
mean?
not
What
part
are
of
those?
The combos.
No, I did not know.
Yeah, just like you have your super missile, they also made a super missile type thing for the energy beams as well. You've got your wave buster, the ice spreader, and the flamethrower, but you have to actually go out and find them in the world. They're hidden,
optional. Yeah, they're
completely
not like,
separate. Probably my favorite of those has to be the wave buster.
if you like Ghostbusters, then you're gonna love the
Yeah.
Wave Buster. You know?
You pretty much have like a proton pack. You charge up with the charge beam while you're using the wave beam,
Mhm.
hit and hold the missile button, and you just have this big arc of electricity.
That's
that
right. I
flows out.
forgot about those. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they are hidden and they're like extra. Like
I
yeah,
missed
those
them the
are pretty
first time
cool.
through. I think I
Yeah.
maybe found the wave buster or the ice spreader, but I didn't find the other two.
Yeah, I missed the Ice Spreader because the Ice Spreader is hidden behind a breakable hallway, which again is a callback to Super Metroid.
Mhm.
I didn't play Super Metroid, so I never had like the thought of breaking these like hallways. I remember my very first playthrough of that I actually did miss the Ice Spreader. The other ones I came across and they're cool, but I think only the Wave Buster is really useful because the Wave Buster does kill that one mini boss when you get the power bombs. There's that invisible drone. The Wave Buster is like
Oh,
the perfect weapon to to kill that. And I'm like, that was the only time I ever used it. They're so inefficient. They use so much missiles.
Oh, they use a stupid amount of missiles, all of them.
How about you, Mike? What was your favorite power-up?
Definitely, the missile combos were pretty cool. I will admit, they were pretty sick. But my favorite one, I think when I look back on it now, I just like getting the Ice Beam because the Ice Beam just wrecks everything. But my very first playthrough, when I finally got the Grapple Beam back, I thought that was the coolest because I was just sweet, now I'm Spider-Man. You know, that was a cool thing.
Hell yeah.
You know, I think it's probably still just a morph ball, but that's just me being like nerdy because I think just physically in the concept of the game, the morph ball is implemented so well. Like, it looks so good and controls so well in the game. The physics are so good in the game for the morph ball. So yeah, it's kind of between a morph ball and grapple beam. I don't know. That's mine. And
there were 3 additional power-ups they were going to put in the game. They talked about doing the speed booster power-up from Super Metroid. They couldn't find a way to implement that. The screw attack, which eventually did show up in Echoes. And then possibly the ability to shine spark, which is jumping from wall to wall to climb areas. But they really just couldn't figure out how to implement that either.
There was also one more beam they were playing around with. I think they were trying to also implement the Spazer beam.
Yeah, because that was absent from the
projectiles.
Game. Yeah, that was absent from the game. It's a shame. But
that would have been cool.
But one of the cool things is once you complete the game, you can sync it up to Metroid Fusion, and you can actually get the Fusion suit. It doesn't do anything specifically, but it looks cool,
I guess. So good.
It looks pretty good.
But then also, if you sync that up, you could unlock the original Metroid on Metroid Fusion. So I always thought that was really cool to be able to play that on my Game Boy, which allowed it also on Metroid Zero Mission. I think once you beat that game, you got that, I believe.
That's correct, yeah.
But if you have the Trilogy Collection, you can actually unlock the Fusion suit by just beating the game and burning a couple of those medals or something. And I love that. Because I remember when I had the GameCube game, I wanted to try the Fusion suit for the longest time, but I didn't have the link cable.
Yeah.
Oh, that Prime Trilogy Collection is the way to go.
Well, here's another thing that I did not know. Retro initially wanted to include Super Metroid as an embedded precursor, a game within the game, much like we were just talking about the original Metroid. But Nintendo did not want them doing that because it would require third-party emulation software and could open up the GameCube to emulation easily, basically, is what they were worried about. Like I said, the Morph Ball almost didn't make it into the game. They didn't know how to implement it, and they didn't know how to animate it. So for a long time, they were like, we don't know what to do. And Miyamoto goes, if you cannot make this work, you cannot make the game work. So he basically...
Hey, you know what, Miyamoto? Good one on you, man. That's the kind of motivation that you have to get these people, you know?
Hell yeah.
You can't have a Metroid game without the Morph Ball.
Yeah.
You can't.
I agree. Basically, at that point, you're just playing Mega Man. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, that's all.
Like I said before, the GameCube released 5 different versions of the game. We got the initial release, we got the redone release, we got the player's choice release of the game. By the time they got there, they corrected a lot of those, the European and the Japanese version, of course. We talked about the biggest difference being the narration at the beginning and the ending of the game with the PAL version. But eventually, this is where you guys come in, there were more re-releases. And what I want to talk about, the big thing, because we want Corey to try this game. Hopefully, we talked him a little bit through our enthusiasm for it into trying it.
Go, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Oh, this is so important, though. I need to ask you this.
Don't lose your thought, okay?
Where'd he go? Is there a hooker at the door? What's going on?
Maybe he's grabbing his copy. Actually,
that's 100% what he's doing.
Wait, do I have mine? 'Cause I do have the original Black Label copy.
Everyone hold him up. Everyone let him know what we're playing. All I've got is Star Fox Adventures.
Oh,
Ethan,
he did? He got his copy.
He got his copy.
This is the only way you need to play this. Whether it's the collector's version of Prime Trilogy or the basic disc, or you get it through whatever shop. This is the way to do it.
Where is the Switch version? I'm telling you. Where's the HD version?
That's going to come out right before Prime 4 drops.
Ducky, before you actually cut this off for the next meeting, I just wanted to say that I'm sure everyone here besides Corey knows, would you agree that them releasing the Prime Trilogy remaster, HD, whatever, would have been the perfect thing to soften the blow of Prime 4 being delayed?
Yes, 100%.
As much as I want it.
You were upset, Ethan. You cried. You literally cried. I held you for a half hour.
He held me in his arms and whispered sweet something.
No, you were pretty upset about it.
Prime 4 will come, just another now.
But I mean, they started from scratch.
It's okay, they got retro.
And they started it over. Exactly. They went back to retro and said, you know what, guys, let's go. And I mean, it's not the original team, but I mean, it's the original company. So obviously, and they've been killing it with Donkey Kong. So why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned to love Retro Studios because I love the Donkey Kong games, and I love the Returns games. What have they been working on since Tropical Freeze?
There was that rumored Star Fox racing
Yeah,
game.
that was the
Wait,
rumor. But I mean,
what?
like, yeah, the rumor was that they were working on a Star Fox racing game.
No
And-
shit.
Yeah, but they think it was just like a leak of like Starlink, because Starlink kind of has
Yeah.
like. So that's what they think people thought it was, but yeah, rumor was they were working on that, and then now we're working on Prime 4, and it's like, yeah, but what have you been doing for the last 6 years? Yeah,
Ethan keeps
I
scrolling.
wish.
It
I
doesn't-
wish they were working on that.
Ethan, it's an audio medium. That doesn't exactly translate. He
I
keeps
know, but it gets
slowly
them to
pulling
laugh.
up Metroid Prime Trilogy and pulling it back down. So, all right.
I just wanted you to have to explain it so I didn't have to.
Last thing I wanted to talk about, GameCube versus Wii Controls. What is the way to play this game? Do you guys want to play it with traditional controller, or do you think it's worth holding that Wiimote and that nunchuck? What do you guys think?
I do think there's still a lot of fun with the original GameCube and the tank controls. It's a bit clunky nowadays. Definitely like an archaic control set, but I think it worked very well for what the GameCube version had to offer. Because like I think it worked well with the one control stick. I like how the C stick was mapped to, so that way Corey knows it was the GameCube yellow C stick, which actually was how you alternated your beam weapons. It was a nice little like plus sign like coordination. It worked pretty well, and the D-pad was for your visors. But the thing is, like the Wii remote, though, I think when Prime 3 came out and introduced, oh, there you go, Corey. when Prime 3 introduced the Wii controls, I think it was probably one of the best control schemes ever for a shooter game.
Oh,
It
100%.
worked so well, yeah. So I like how when they made the trilogy version, they said, okay, let's incorporate the Wii remote controls to the first two games. I think it works pretty well. A nitpick is I kind of wish they offered like a control option to play with the GameCube controller, because why not? But I mean, I don't know, maybe it was too tough for them to do. The point is, I would say for your first time playing, there's nothing wrong playing on the trilogy version. I think because again, the Wii remote pointer works very well. The thing is, because of that, the clunky thing is when you want to change your weapons or your beams, that's where you have to utilize the Prime 3 controls, which make you hold the plus or the minus button for whichever weapon or visor you're trying to change. That's probably the one clunky thing. So I think that it was a lot smoother to use the GameCube controller to change that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The game really lends itself really, really well to the Wii motion controls, especially with being able to more precisely target what you want to shoot at.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it just feels like a natural extension, almost like you're actually Samus with the arm cannon having to rotate around.
Yeah.
And
it works so well.
Immerses you a little bit more.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's actually how me and Ethan became friends, because we worked at the same place and we started talking about this game, and I was like, man, I've been playing it on the Wii. I didn't think it was gonna work, and like I feel totally immersed. I feel like I am Samus, playing this
Yeah.
game, like and the way I can move this. He goes, yeah, and we started talking about that, and we had a common interest, and that eventually led to our friendship, which led to D&D. But
And
that's
this.
why, yeah, and then this. So like, it's just, I think that you're not missing anything playing it that way. In fact, I think it's better. Having played the game almost day one when it came out on the GameCube, and then playing that version, I will say go for the Wii version. Mike, is there anything you missed that you really want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. I'll do a few things. Here's some fun
Okay.
facts. In case you guys didn't know, more fun facts. Obviously, the power bomb glitches are mind-blowing, you guys. Besides that, did you know the Flagger's music is glitched?
What?
It loops every 10 seconds.
Wait,
No.
wait.
It was they fixed it in the PAL version, I think, and it's obviously I don't know for sure, but it is fixed in the trilogy version. If you go back and play the original GameCube version, his music is glitched. You only hear the first like 10 seconds of the song.
No shit.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
I had to go on YouTube and look up the actual play of the trilogy version, and actually it's really good boss music. But yeah, I didn't realize that as a kid. I'm like, it's just the first like bow, over and over again. It's
Right.
glitched.
Huh.
Fun fact. Let's see what else.
That's weird.
Because people don't notice at first. You kind of just because you're just busy fighting the boss. But yeah, the music's glitched.
Yeah, you're so focused on Flagger that you wouldn't. It's just kind of background noise at that point.
Yep.
I got something.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Corey.
What you got?
All right, so I brought something to show and tell here. This plays very well on an audio podcast only. Look at these bad boys.
Oh, snap. He's got the
Ooh.
amiibos up in here.
From Samus Returns, doing what amiibo do best, collecting dust. Am I right?
Right.
Oh,
right.
absolutely.
It's beautiful,
I've got a
but
Tom
what do you
Nook
do with
that's-
this
that
thing?
looks great on my shelf.
But those are very rare, aren't they? Those are hard to get a hold of, those two, aren't they?
Oh, he's got a Metroid eating his face.
Holy crap.
Yeah, GameStop had one of these things.
So Mike
Oh, you
just
got the
pulled out-
full-size one?
Mike just pulled out a
Nice.
giant Metroid.
Yeah,
That
use it.
is...
Oh,
It's
I
awesome.
need it.
Yeah,
I
that is
need that in my
crazy.
life.
Fun fact: did you know how many little red orbs are on a Metroid, guys?
I thought it was 3.
I got
7.
4 on mine.
There's 4. There's one in the
No
back.
shit.
Ha!
There's 4
Guys
orbs.
think I didn't know Metroid.
With that said, Corey, wait, all right. Did
Yeah.
we convince you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to say I never even realized how atmospheric these games were, and you guys all described it as being like this, almost a horror game. I never even would have considered that. I thought it was just like this, sci-fi shooter adventure type thing, but I think that's really cool. It definitely gives me way more interest.
I'm
Yeah.
35. I wouldn't play it with the lights out, dude. There's no way. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
What I would say is, I know we've kind of spoiled here a lot of the big scary.
Oh, I'm gonna forget
moments of the
about it.
game,
Don't worry.
But yeah, so go through and play the first one, love it, enjoy it, and have, if you need it, have Mike guide you through, because I know he probably knows that game like the back of his hand, just like I do.
Oh, if I play it, he's gonna be right there, yelling at
Oh,
me.
yeah.
"You didn't
forward
do
to
this,
it
Corey, you
then."
didn't
But
do that."
believe me, I'm doing all the Metroid Let's Plays for the channel, but man, I'll be honored if Corey wants to do a blind Let's Play, and I'll
would
just be there
love
watching.
to play Super Metroid when I get the chance, because I
That's-
love Metroidvanias. Metroidvanias are so good.
So
That-
Yes.
your homework then, after all this, Super Metroid Prime 1, but then I'm also going to add in, for the horror factor, Prime 2.
Okay.
Because that game it's
It's
hard
scary.
as shit,
Yeah.
and it's
It's scary.
terrifying.
It's
Yeah.
really scary.
That's
All
really
right.
cool. Yeah.
We give a rating. We give a rating to our games based upon Sonic, okay? So S tier being the best,
Oh.
E being the worst. That's how we rate our games.
And we rated Prime last time, so our rating's already out there. But
It's
Mike,
S. I'm pretty sure we S tiered it. didn't
Corey.
we? Yeah.
what would you guys rate Metroid Prime 1?
I'm kind of curious what Corey's rating is going to be since he never played the game.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say.
I think it's an S.
E-rank all the way.
Well, with how you guys described everything, I think I'm gonna have to give it a solid B.
Yes, you're right. Right down
Just
the
middle
middle.
Alright.
of the line. I don't know. It sounds okay,
No,
What do you
just-
think, Mike? What's your rating? What do you give it?
I would give it a solid. If you're going on the Sonic scale, I would give it an S. The game, it revolutionized the first-person shooter aspect, because it obviously was not a first-person shooter game. This kind of introduced a whole genre of first-person action games, or however you want to describe it. I think that's what they called it. But the game did so much well. The graphics are incredible, even for today's standards, which is mind-blowing, by the way, and quite an amazing feat. The soundtrack is upbeat and immersive at the exact same time. Speaking of immersive, everything just works so well. How you actually feel like you're with the heads-up display. The combat visor is like your heads-up display. You feel like you're in that suit. You feel like you're in Samus' suit. That's perfect. Controls work very well. The enemies are fun. The gameplay is fun. Everything about the game it excels. Again, there are issues with the game, but they are minuscule compared to the positives. Therefore, I think this game does qualify an S rating, in my opinion, because it is
You
ranked
heard it
as one of the
here
greatest games of all
first,
time.
folks. They leveled with us, and that's an S tier right there.
Oh.
Hey.
So with that said, I think me and Ethan are also S tier in the same thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to olive branch here. Corey, we apologize that we talked about a game that you didn't get a chance to play. What game do you want to talk about? Are you a Halo fan? Do you want to talk about Halo? What game series are you interested for the next time we do this?
Oh, Halo would be fun.
I hate Halo, so let's do it. I've never played
I
it.
love
Okay.
Halo, so I'm
All
with
right.
you.
And I want to reject. I'm honestly not a Kingdom Hearts fan. I know that's one of Corey's favorite. So if you guys
Dude,
are
we can do
Fair
fans,
Kingdom
enough.
Hearts.
so if you guys are fans, I would love to learn more about it. I can be the Corey for that podcast, and I'll just learn more about Kingdom Hearts.
I don't know if you guys ever done a Smash. You can see I have the poster right behind me, but I
Oh, I
love
would
the
love to
Smash
do that.
Brothers series. I've put countless hours. I've been to tournaments. I'd be competing right now if the world wasn't, poisoned. But
Let me ask you this: who do you main?
Link.
I figured. I should have guessed.
Smash it is. That's next time
I
we
should've
meet.
guessed.
I'm a
We will
Samus.
talk about it.
I'm a Samus mainer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, see, I should have known that
Makes
one
sense.
too.
Samus is broken if you don't have a controller. She's broken. I'm sorry.
Oh, absolutely.
So the
The more-
next time we meet, we are definitely going to do Smashcast. That's what we're going to do. We're going to break down the series. That sounds good. It wasn't as sexual as Ethan made it with his laugh there. But hey, Smashcast is where it's at, bro. I mean, we can do that too. This is the We Are
Okay.
Podcast Network. You know us. If you guys listen to anything else, nothing is off limits. But no, we're going to do Smashcast. It's gonna rock.
ASMR Smashcast.
Oh,
And
thank
there he
you
goes
so
as
much.
Link. He did his down smash and put in 200%.
Is that what the narration sounds like? Like the most boring
Ooh, and he just
NPR
lost one
shit you've ever
stock.
heard in your life.
Oh, that's disappointing. That's really going to be quite a setback.
And then there's the edge guard. Oh, that jerk.
Is that real? Is that what it sounds like?
I don't know.
I
I'm just going
wish.
along with it. I'm just going along with it. Yeah.
You
I
can.
was trying to emulate Corey's like Morgan Freeman voice. It's like,
Wait, can you do the Morgan
He
Freeman
took
voice?
the bomb. He threw it at Samus. It blew up. It did about 15%. He followed it up with a nair. He used up smash. It killed. Game. This game's winner is Link.
Bravo, good sir. Bravo. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Level With Me podcast.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah,
this was
man,
great.
this is
Even though I
been
didn't say anything for like
Bro,
90% of the podcast.
We're going to get that sultry voice back. We're going to do it again. Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, Instagram. We're going to link everything in the description. You guys go subscribe to them. Listen to these guys.
Let
Check out the
them level
Let's
with
Plays.
you, man.
I'm telling you
They
right
level
now.
with us. Let them level with you.
So much fun. I got to say thank you, Mike. I got to say thank you, Corey. But I got to also let you guys know this, too.
This is
And
very
I
important.
apologize to tell you this. You
Get us.
guys aren't Billy Mitchell, bitch. So stop trying. Just stop.
Just stop.
That's just the tag.
You ain't.
I didn't. Mike's face. I'm sorry. That's our tagline. We came up with it in the first episode. None of
I'll
us.
challenge Billy right now. I'm the
You?
king of Kong.
Dude.
Bring it, Billy.
Ooh, maybe he is
Dude.
Billy Mitchell, bitch.
Dude.
And there it is. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you have enjoyed it, please do not forget, share with your friends. That is how we grow the network. And if this is your first time listening, head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, and give We Are Podcast a like. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, you're going to love the other podcast here on the We Are Podcast Network. We have We Are Error, where we talk about movies, entertainment, whatever the fuck we want to talk about. That's me, that's Jake, that's Javi. We're breaking down pop culture, and we're having a blast. Don't forget Heroes Gyros, a Dungeons and Distraction side quest. Me and the boys were sitting down, we're playing some D&D. We're having so much fun. You can go ahead and start that from the beginning of the journey, Season 1, Episode 1. You're going to love it all the way through. And finally, I Hate Being Sober. Personal stories from epic people. I'm going to sit down with some of the most epic people I've ever met in this world, and we're going to talk about their life, we're going to talk about their trials and tribulations, and we're just going to talk about their journey this far. Head on over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /WeArePodcast. Also, head over to the Facebook group, We Are Error. We would love to see you in that group. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed the podcast today, share it with your friends. That's the only way we can grow this network. But with that said, I have to remind you, I can never let you forget this. You ain't Billy Mitchell, bitch. So stop trying. We'll see you next time.